This is GKW. Welcome to another edition of Good Karma Wrestling. I'm Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee. We've got the gang back together tonight with Brian Rowitz from ESPN West Palm, and you can catch him on ESPN 1000 in Chicago, Jonathan Hood. Boys, it's a big day. 200 days as Cody Rhodes as our WWE Undisputed Champion. So it's a simple question to kick off the show tonight. 200 days in, what grade are you giving the American Nightmare?
A solid B to B minus.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily because of Cody. You know, we always have to mention that when we talk about wrestlers or talk about promotions, we're talking about creative. We're talking about the creative process. It's not about the wrestlers personally. I mean, think about it. Outside the bloodline, what excites you about Cody Rhodes and his opponents? We saw him against Shinsuke Nakamura. We've seen him against AJ Styles. We've seen him against Kevin Owens, in which he hands his former friend a title shot in Nice, France. So outside the bloodline, I think that he's had good matches. But ultimately, when you are a babyface champion, you want to be in peril. You want people to root for you and say, my God, that's our champion. I hope that he can make it. It's always just been matches outside the bloodline, not necessarily he's in a brutal feud that's going to last for a while, a blood feud, kind of like we saw with McIntyre and Punk. So I just think it's just been very good as champion for him.
Yeah, I think from a business standpoint, it's been great. He's the guy that's working every town. Like he said, he's working that Cena schedule. But from an investment standpoint, I agree. I think it's a low B at this point because there's never been that moment where it's like, ooh, is this going to happen? Is Cody going to drop the title right now? Like, it's just going through the motions. It's bloodline impacted. And, like, sure, there's some matches. Logan Paul was a good match. KO was a good match. I'm intrigued moving forward, the KO and Orton stuff, but we haven't quite gotten there yet. But, like, him versus Solo in a main event every other pay-per-view just isn't doing it for me right now as a champ.
Yeah, so for me, it's a C+. And so I even drop out of the B category. And again, I don't think any of it's on Cody. Like from a business standpoint, like you said, like the dude sells merch, he cuts good promos. But in terms of me investing in this, it's always tough with a babyface champion. We've talked about this how many ever times. You can only be as strong as your challengers, right? Like that's any good like superhero movie, really any movie where you're talking about good versus evil. It's okay. So what is the obstacle that you have to overcome? And that's why movies with, truly iconic villains are the ones I think a lot of people remember. He really hasn't had to do with that. And look, I understand. Okay, you've got to have somebody like Shinsuke Nakamura early. You've got to have, AJ Styles. Okay, former WWE champion. You can put together a decent program. So with a baby face, it's just tough. Like I think of other baby faces, like the one other baby face I think of in WWE that got the big win at WrestleMania that was supposed to vault them forward. And eventually it did with Daniel Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him. But with him, he got hurt right away, right? Like it was always going to be tough for Bryan, at that point to overcome something bigger than Triple H and the Authority that they were, that he was up against at that point. And it's the same thing with Cody Rhodes. The most interesting stuff that he has done has been with the bloodline. And I'm hoping that, okay, he helped out Roman. I'm hoping this KO stuff kind of pulls him away. I don't want him to be really involved with the bloodline civil war anymore. Granted, he's probably going to have to get sucked back in at some point when The Rock returns. But I think like the foundation of that was laid at WrestleMania last year. I think we're all looking forward to the story that can be. But there just hasn't been. And again, it's when you're talking about finishing a story that has literally been in motion for decades.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be tough to really overcome that. There hasn't been anything super compelling. I'm with you, Brian. I think that the KO stuff is the most intriguing thing for me. And I think that has a lot of potential, but they've purposefully tried to keep him away from some of the bigger, from some of the bigger heels, understandably so. And as a babyface champion, no matter what company we're talking about, no matter what era we're talking about, babyface champion taking on some mid-level heels, like that's not that compelling of a run.
Well, it's funny because we've for years talked about with Roman as champ that they didn't build up any credible baby faces. Now you have a babyface champ, and there really are no credible heels. Like you talk about keeping him away.
I think there's a lot of credible. I think there's plenty of credible heels. I mean, you have, but they've just kind of kept him away, whether that's Drew McIntyre, whether that's Gunther, whether that's, again, now you just flipped over KO, whether,
Sure.
So I don't think it's like they haven't built up a credible heel problem. I think it's we have some plans down the road and we just kind of have to tread water until we get to those plans.
The heavyweight champion should be a major attraction in the company. And even what's happening right now is that the Bloodline story is still number one, and Cody's not part of this. I'll say this, that we've got Survivor Series right around the corner in Vancouver, and Roman Reigns is going to need some partners. Clearly, he needs some allies. And it makes you wonder whether or not that Cody's going to align himself with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso at some point. Who knows? I just know that with the whole thing with KO, I find it very intriguing. I could see this matchup could be on Saturday night's main event, and I hope that this is not a one-off. I mean, he attacked him outside of his bus. Yeah. I want this a couple times, and if that means it goes into the Rumble, it goes in the Rumble, because we don't need Cody in the Rumble, we don't need KO in the Rumble. So the hope is that this extends out to be a meaningful feud. But then, Gabe, the thing that we ask ourselves is, so what happens after that? February Elimination Chamber. Royal Rumble Elimination Chamber, and we get to WrestleMania. So where does Cody fit in? He's the champion. We're trying to figure out where he fits in this whole thing with The Rock, Roman, KO, Randy Orton, or whomever he's going to face.
Yeah, and just weird, like trying to see, like we talked about it last week, like I would be okay with KO even winning the title for a month, and then, Cody taking it back and doing it that way, like the Raw on Netflix to give hey, anything can happen on a Monday. Let KO win the title that night and then give it back at the Rumble. Like,
yeah.
The path is weird.
Yeah. So Gabe, while you're away overseas wearing funny pants, here's this guy trying to get Kevin Owens a title on Saturday night's main event. How about that for a month? By the way, just for a month, I'm fine.
I mean,
like a Jey Uso type run.
I was about to say. I mean, this is the least shocking thing I think I've heard. Like, I mean, he can't. Right now, Sammy's not front and center, so might as well get Sammy's best buddy. A run with the gold. Like, this makes this tracks. Like, this 100% makes sense. Like, I don't even bat an eye at these title ideas that he comes up with.
Just saying, just here to help, Hunter. You're welcome.
right there on NBC Saturday night's main event, a title change right there before we get to Netflix in January.
Right. Okay. You can do it at Netflix either. I'd be okay with that one also. If they want to wait till January 6th and wait for Netflix, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, again, I've personally booked Rock versus Cody on that show, so I think that's, no offense to KO, I think that one's a little bit bigger. But again, I guess which again begs the question. We saw The Rock show up. When's The Rock going to show up again? Like, he hasn't explained what he was seemingly upset about at the end of one of those PLEs. So I don't know when The Rock shows up again. And it is interesting when you have somebody who is as over as Cody is, because he still is. He gets the pops and people love hearing the promos. But I mean, if we were to power rank WWE superstars, where's the undisputed WWE champion on that list right now?
In terms of what?
I mean, just power rank the importance of WWE superstars right now.
Well,
Roman's one.
Starts with Roman. Yep.
Punk is still up there.
Punk is ahead of him. I would agree.
McIntyre
is Gunther ahead of him?
I think Drew is, yeah.
Yeah. Gunther.
Uh-huh. Would we put Dwayne?
Rock. Yeah.
Is Solo? Right. Is Solo or Fatu?
No.
Like the bloodline list, like all encompassing. Let's put them in there. It's like other receiving votes, the bloodline.
Where do you put Rhea?
Right.
Where do you put, it's just a really interesting spot for him to be in, to be the undisputed champion, to be, I mean, literally the face of the company. I mean, they're coming to Milwaukee here shortly, and they made him available to us, right? Like, but in terms of intriguing things that, like, if they didn't put him out on SmackDown this past Friday to do whatever promo around the Crown Jewel Championship belt, like, I'd have been fine. Like, if they would have just done but again, he has to be in front of the live crowd. Like, you want him to bring that energy to the live crowd, but it's not like he provided any value to SmackDown and furthering any storylines that they have. All that was done by a Kevin Owens, not even backstage promo, and then a Randy Orton backstage, segment, which apparently involves Triple H. So Triple H somehow getting involved in this as well. So it's messy. I'm really curious and intrigued to see how they pull it off, but right now, Cody's just not that important in the larger WWE space.
Well, Hood, you mentioned War Games. I don't want him anywhere near that.
No.
War Games, Elimination Chamber. He wouldn't be involved, right? There's no reason for him to be in. I mean, I'm talking about if there's a match. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we assume there's going to be a Bloodline War Games match at Survivor Series. I don't want him on Roman's team.
Correct.
Okay, then that's going to be KO and
yeah.
So we're going to get KO and Cody, and then there's going to be some kind of three-way dance that involves Randy Orton at some point too. I don't know what show that's going to be on, but I imagine that's the avenue we're going to.
Yeah, I mean, look at the chat. James gives it an A+.
Well, listen. Well, he's on the Cena run.
Yeah, he is.
And so this is the Cena schedule. He is the face of the company. But what I don't want for Cody, from a booking standpoint, is for him to be the champion, but not really be the guy. He is the guy. I don't think that this is Dean Ambrose's champion or Rey Mysterio's champion or Chris Benoit's champion. What I'm saying is that, multiple matches, blood feud to make a babyface look large. Make him look big, not just matches, not him just skating by. I'm talking about big match. So this matchup against Gunther at Crown Jewel will be interesting because we said, Gabe, last week we feel like Gunther's going to win that championship with interference from KO. I think that's very likely, and so maybe
you don't think Bill Goldberg's not Bill Goldberg? Bill Goldberg could show. See, I think Bill Goldberg shows up and Cody ends up winning it because we know how much they love their legends in Saudi.
I thought I saw that Goldberg's busy that weekend now.
What the hell's he doing?
I believe there's something with the Florida-Georgia game going into some Hall of Fame there.
Oh. I didn't know.
He's being inducted in the Georgia-Florida Hall of Fame.
The Georgia-Florida Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Wait, excuse me. Wait. So what you're telling me right now, what you are trying to tell me on GKW is that there's a Florida Hall of Fame.
Right.
There's a Georgia Hall of Fame.
Right.
But also there is a Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame.
Right, yeah, just the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, which we can't call it that anymore. With that game, they have their own Hall of Fame. And Bill will be one of the inductees this year.
Because he was involved in it? Not because he was great.
No, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay.
In Tony Khan's backyard at Everbank Field in Jacksonville.
They flying in Bret Hart to do the induction?
I'm a Georgia fan. I can name 50 guys, and Goldberg's not on it. So that's interesting.
This year's inductees include Georgia Bulldogs greats Mike Fisher and Bill Goldberg.
Man,
two.
Wow, greats really doing a lot of heavy lifting there, isn't it?
Mike Peterson and Fred Weary will represent the Florida Gators.
All right.
They will be recognized for their exceptional contributions to the storied rivalry between the two programs.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Don't recall that.
Again, things you learn on GKW.
Yeah.
I don't remember that
GKW
from a Bill Gold. I didn't know that from a Bill Gold.
That's sick.
Okay.
I guess he did not get your vote.
Interesting. But I know that this comes across for some people as that we're dissing Cody Rhodes. That's not what we're doing. We're saying is that while he's champion, again, that's just the booking situation. Outside of the bloodline, what has really impressed you as far as like big time matches, blood feud, that kind of thing? Rock knocked him down in Chicago into the rain. Again, bloodline related. Whole thing with Roman Reigns, bloodline related. But what about the other side? Solid matches, but what about the rivalries?
And again, like it's through no fault of his own. Like I understand they've got bigger, better things. That's why, because The Rock is only going to be around ever so often, right? Like Rock's not going to be there every single week. So I don't believe, unless they do Brian's idea of, put it on KO for a month, unless they do that idea, I don't believe that Cody's actually ever in danger of losing any of these matches, because I know where the real money is. And that is Cody versus Rock. Like that's where the big, and that's the first time I'll actually feel he's in any sort of danger or any sort of peril. I mean, he's done good with what he's been given. It's just they've done so many other good things elsewhere. It's kind of knocked him down a few pegs. But once The Rock comes back, Cody's going to probably shoot right back toward the top of those power rankings.
So is the Mania main event like again Cody bloodline related?
I can't give you anything else. I can make a case right here on GKW that they're going to heat up Randy Orton and heel turn also.
Sure.
And it'll be Randy and Cody. But is that night 2 worthy?
No. I mean, right now, night 2 main events is either Rock Cody or Rock Roman. That's the night 2 main event. It's one of those two. I don't know which order. Those 2 matches need to happen at some point. They clearly wanted Rock Roman last year, ended up pivoting and going a different direction. That match still, though, I think needs to happen. And Rock Cody needs to happen. And I don't know what order they do it. I don't know how they end up telling that story. But I think Rock versus Cody is probably the main event.
And what we still need to determine, and as Bobby Heenan used to say, whose side is he on, The Rock? Whose side is he on? Is he on the Roman side, or is he on the Bloodline side? Is he on his own side?
I was about to say, he very well could be on the Rock side.
I don't know whose side he's on.
So maybe we see him at Survivor Series, like if it's Solo Fatu, God versus Usos, Roman, and Sammy, and Rock.
But again, that's where you can do Rock shows up, Rock turns on Roman.
Sure, like put him on the Roman team. Mm-hmm. I know Hood's worried about his safety in War Games.
Well, I am. He's got one match. Rock only has one or two. It could be Gabe's booking of night 1 of Netflix and WrestleMania, or just one match. It's The Rock. He's fragile.
The last one in a War Games, do the turn on Roman. He can protect himself.
Oh yeah, you can easily protect him in the War Games.
Just don't let him take a bump from Fatu. I would worry about that.
That's the problem. Yeah. Jacob Fatu is the WWE answer to Roosh in AEW. Like, it's just, you're not quite sure what's going to happen, man. Like, it's just.
Jacob, that's family. I don't care.
He does a great job at holding that pose, by the way.
Yes, he does. That's discipline right there. See that? Did that in jail, probably.
Also Fatu, the tease of Fatu versus Bron. Like, okay, yes. All right. Just take my money. All right, here it is. Like, just take it. You can have it. I guess. I'll be locked in for it.
Top of the card.
Yeah.
So many other great things we have to get to this week in the world of professional wrestling. We like to call it our 3 count, the other top 3 stories. And where we begin is earlier today, we caught up with somebody who finds himself entangled in a pretty big storyline over in AEW. As earlier today, we talked with the 2-time international champion, Orange Cassidy. Yeah. Excited to talk to our next guest. He is a 2-time international champion for AEW. Of course, you want to check him out if you happen to be in the Cleveland area. Fright Night Dynamite coming up on Wednesday. Get your tickets, AEWTix.com. He is Orange Cassidy. Orange, thank you so much for the time, man.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been able to balance your character in AEW? Because, you come in as kind of the Joe Cool, nothing bothers you. And yet for a while especially while you were international champion, it felt like if I wasn't hearing Jane to start an episode of Dynamite, I was wondering what was going on. You kind of start as this guy, okay, if I have to wrestle, I guess I will, to kind of being the workhorse. You have the most wins in the history of the company. How have you been able to balance that since you've come into now?
I think it's because of AEW and that the way I was brought into AEW. I think I was able to, evolve into something more. And I think that is the benefit that AEW has that some other places wouldn't, about letting somebody change throughout their career. I did what I had to do. I would try if I wanted to, but then it came to a point when you become international champion. At that time, I was all Atlantic champion, and it didn't really have an identity. So you just do what you have to do, right? And that was just do what a champion does, and that's wrestle whenever and wherever, literally. And I feel that championship had its identity while I made a new identity for myself. I was never the same after those 2 international title runs. And for where I am now than I was 5 years ago, you could say I've changed quite a bit.
Orange, what does it say that when you come to ringside, you see kids dressed like you? What does that mean to you personally to know, hey, this is who I am, but yet kids live vicariously through you?
I look at that, I go, it's still working. People still like me. Especially, I feel it's important for us, especially AEW, because we are such a new company. Even though we get treated like we've been around for 20 years, we've been around for 5 years. And there is going to be, within 5 years, there is going to be a new generation of fans, and they will be the kids that are watching now. When I was a child, it was very pro wrestling hit me a certain way, and it was because of when I went to live events and I interacted with the wrestlers. And I feel it's very important for us to cultivate a good fan base, especially with our kids. And I try to make sure that I don't do anything that would be weird. Like, some of these guys, I try not to swear, certain things, just because I do understand that kids are gravitating towards it. And because I think they can just identify, like, oh, I get it. That guy just doesn't care, but he'll do it, I guess, And I think that's it's just reassuring.
For you, on the flip side of that, there are some curmudgeons out there that when you first burst onto the scene swore you were going to kill professional wrestling as opposed to the opposite. How did you take in some of that criticism early on?
I don't know. I think about that a lot, because when AEW first announced me, it was very polarizing. Like, there were a lot of people like, oh, this is fun. And this guy's a joke. Blah, blah, blah. And then, like, 3 years later, I'm like number 7 in the PWI. It is, I listen to criticism, and I listen to people like, let's say, Jake Roberts or Dean Malenko, and they will give me advice, and I always take what I can from it. But ultimately, I do what I think is the best. And if I'm making the professional wrestling that I enjoy, then I would like to think that most people enjoy it too. And I don't hit a home run every time. This is ESPN, so I say I don't bat 1,000, but
Mr. Sports.
Yeah, I'd be 333 is pretty good, right?
It's Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
that's it.
Again, AEW Ticks, if you want to check out Fright Night Dynamite coming up in Cleveland, Ohio. Orange Cassidy. Did you ever think, I heard this from Tony Schiavone, in the last couple of weeks with the new storyline that you're involved in, calling you one of the faces of AEW when you joined the company. Did you think that was ever something that was going to be said about you, that you would be put in a prominent position representing the company?
No, and I don't think that I am, nor should I be. I don't want that. I never wanted that. I wanted to do what I had to do, and go home. But especially after what happened last night, it's been made very clear to me that I think I have no choice in this situation. Like before, early in AEW, there was always this thing of, oh, he's going to try, or he'll care this time. I don't feel that I have any choice in this matter. I have to fight, and I have to take down. I have to fight, and I don't want to, but if the people around me that I care about the most are going to be hurt, then I really have no choice in the matter.
It seemed watching Dynamite on Wednesday that the light bulb was over your head, because as Dynamite was going off the air, I don't think we've ever seen your face look like that before. Wasn't horror, it wasn't shock, it was just like, okay, what's happening now? What do I do now? Because we haven't seen you like that. What was that feeling in that moment? Because you look down at your friend, and he's already been injured, he's already out, and then this happens. What's going through your mind?
At that very moment, I was literally 1 second late. I slid into the ring right as Claudio was stomping the chair on his neck. I'm not very calculated, obviously. I just react. And reacting, you're just all day. I was just reacting. And earlier that night, Chuck said some stuff to me, which I needed to hear, which is what a good friend would do. And I'm just reacting. And then I feel that, well, there's a couple of things that I never thought I'd see him laid out again. I mean, he was injured before by my other friend Trent, and to see that again, it's something I never thought I'd have to see again. But I was sitting in the ring, and so I think at that moment I was just like I don't want to say that, I don't want to take a cop out answer, just be like I was blacked out. I really just don't. I just was. Just everything that's going on. It wasn't something I expected. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, after the show, I think we just released the footage on YouTube, but there was, obviously I was reacting, and I got a little, me and Danny got a little bit of an, I'm going to say interaction, but I think all of my thoughts will be made clear Wednesday in Cleveland. On Dynamite, on that Fright Night thing, whatever we're calling it, Fright Night, Halloween, Dynamite, whatever.
The night before Halloween.
Yes. So I'll make things very clear on that show. And here's a sidebar. What did you guys call this the night before Halloween?
Nothing.
Mine was called Mischief Night. You guys didn't have that?
In Detroit, not in Chicago. We never called it that.
No?
Hell Night or
Hell Night. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
sorry.
So what do you do on Mischief? Well, now I gotta know what do you do on Mischief. Yeah, now I gotta know what happens on Mischief Night.
It's like you go around, you toilet paper people's houses and throw eggs at their doors or something. I don't know. You guys don't do that? All right. Well,
you did that on Halloween. Like it was like a Halloween thing at the end of the night.
Oh no, we do it the night before because Halloween you were getting candy.
Ah.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's just the day that ends in Y in Chicago.
Oh, there you go.
He's a Chicago guy, yeah.
There you go.
In the ring, we've seen some of the things you've done where at the end of the night, you're like, wow, did you see that orange match? What was the match that you had that after the fact, even you were impressed? You impressed yourself. You're like, whoa, we really pulled that off.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I hate to stay on topic, but it was when I beat Jon Moxley at Full Gear last year. I was fully expecting going into that match that I'm just going to take a beating and I'm just going to try to survive and do what I have to because I was the champion and that's what a champion does. And that was probably the time I was shocked with myself.
I think, again, kind of going back to some of the things that we've talked about in terms of, who you are and the uniqueness of who Orange Cassidy is and the way you can resonate with kids, but I think also resonate with a lot of adult professional wrestling fans as well, is because you're not like anybody else. When you see, we're obviously very aware that Dax is a fan of Bret Hart, right? Like, and you can see the inspiration when he wrestles that he got from Bret Hart. Who are some of the inspirations you had as you were coming into professional wrestling?
Well, that's interesting because I don't really have. I mean, there are some people that I enjoyed to watch, but it was really instead of, and I think there's nothing wrong with you could see Dax using elements of Bret Hart in his match. Like I love Quentin Tarantino. Like we all you could see making it your own and the style, and you could see the influence. I just found the most success of doing the opposite of what everybody was doing and then trying something just completely new. So I would look at things that were being done and do the exact opposite. There was one person I did resonate a little bit with Jake the Snake Roberts and the way he would talk to the people and to the camera, and he never yelled. And I think that was very important. That separated him from everybody else. He had to yell, he would yell, but his words were very, very important, very deliberate, very smart. And that's just one that I kind of that sticks out with me.
Orange, how would you describe the state of the company? You mentioned earlier that some people that's been watching AEW feel like, hey, you guys been around forever, but it is 5 years old and there's going to be peaks and valleys. So how would you describe what's going on with the company now that you're 5 years old?
Yeah, it's strange because when AEW first started, we had, 5 months of traveling on the road. And actually, we were in Salt Lake City last night. But the last time we were in Salt Lake City, the day after they shut down the world. So we went through COVID for a year and a half, something like that. And then we almost had had a second honeymoon phase. It was like year 3 and 4 where we get back on the road. It's exciting again. It's like, oh, it's great. And now we're here. Like, we're doing it. We're trying to find our rhythm. It's just nice to be a part of a company that no matter how people see us, we're a peak or a valley. The quality of in-ring work and what we put out there is the absolute best that we all can do. Our pay-per-views are, first of all, they're long and they're all incredible. And the fans are just, they're incredible. Yes. So, I feel proud that I am part of a company that we put our best foot forward at every moment we get. You may not love it, but we are. And it's nice to know that we're just going to keep trying to get better and try to top ourselves, which is what we should be doing. So
one of those wrestlers we see outshined every night is Willow Nightingale, part of your group. We've had her on this show. What's it like watching someone like her develop? A little bit different personality than you, but seeing her develop in the ring.
Well, it is she is a factor of AEW, right? Like if AEW wasn't around, we would never be, we probably, she would eventually made it somewhere because she's incredible. But I think we get to see Willow Nightingale because AEW saw something in Willow Nightingale. We saw something in Willow Nightingale and see Willow Nightingale develop. And I think that's incredible to see, especially coming, I used to wrestle with Willow on the independents up and down the New England and New York and Beyond Wrestling and all that stuff. And to see where Willow has become, it's incredible. She's still young. She's still scratching the surface. So it's very, I love to see people who work hard and who are good people get rewarded.
How many pairs of sunglasses do you go through a year?
Too many. And I have too many, and they're Ray-Bans because I'm not going to get cheap sunglasses. Why? And I usually end up giving them away when they're on their last legs to maybe a nice little fan dressed as me in the front row. And I actually lost count after 200.
So you're giving them, the handles falling off or the lenses coming out. You're giving that to kids.
I am giving sunglasses, Ray-Bans that are slightly bent and that don't fit on my head correctly anymore. But then I bend them back and I give it to them. And I'm not going to wear them. Might as well.
It's game used merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah, who wouldn't want used sunglasses? Better than a pair of used shoes. I can see a guy give like boots and shoes to go, hey, what do you do with this? I gotta put these on. Like
that's a good point. It's a lot more practical. They can do a lot more with that.
You can wear these. Like, here you go. They work. Polarized.
Well, of course, yeah, no,
For the
of course
kids.
they're polarized. Yeah, no, they're Ray-Bans. Of course you're going to do that. Orange, thank you so much for the time, man. Cleveland, Ohio is the spot. You heard it from him himself. He's going to clear some things up coming up on Fright Night Dynamite, Wednesday night in Cleveland. If you're in the Cleveland area or even just outside, AEWTix.com. You don't want to miss it. You want to be there in person. Orange, thanks so much for the time, bud.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you in Cleveland.
Big thank you to Orange Cassidy for jumping on with us. Again, AEWTix.com is where you can get tickets to see the show coming up Wednesday night, Fright Night Dynamite in Cleveland, Ohio, as that storyline continues to pick up steam in AEW. Boys, what do we have at number 2 this week?
Right, couple title changes in pro wrestling this week. Monday night, we saw Bron Breakker become the new Intercontinental Champion once again, beating Jey Uso. Last night on Dynamite, Chris Jericho is now a 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion, beating Mark Briscoe in Ladder Wars. What was a better title change this week, Bron or Jericho?
I'm going to go with Bron because I actually care about it. Don't care about Chris Jericho winning yet another world title, the ROH world title. But look, I really thought that the way that Jey got it, and then, they kind of go back to Bron because now they get it off of Jey. It opens up Jey to potentially become, reunite with his bloodline brethren, the way they told that story. Bron, obviously, hand in the air. I was wrong about him. I had questions about him not coming up from NXT earlier, and he has just been an absolute star on the main roster since he's arrived on Monday Night Raw. So I lean towards Breakker mostly because despite enjoying the match, I don't care about another Chris Jericho championship run.
Not sure why that ROH championship behind a paywall had to change in Salt Lake City, Utah. Not sure why that happened. It looked like 2 drunk guys just fighting in the back of the alley. That's what that looked like to me. There was nothing special about that match. I mean, obviously, we love, we love that when these guys go at each other and go back and forth, ladder match, the plunder, everything else, the blood. But it's just kind of like Briscoe's a champion and no one knows. I think I did something that might have been on Busted Open where we named the top 10. Did we do it on this show, the top 10 world champions? And Briscoe was like last because no one can see him or no one pays to see him. I mean, I think Briscoe's down there with like the NWA champion and like some of these other guys. Just kind of like, we like the idea that he was champion. We just didn't see him enough defending the ROH championship. Clearly with Bron Breakker, I don't know if you saw it on social media like I did, guys. There was a lot of disappointment because people thought Jey Uso is going to be away from the bloodline,
right?
And that he would be able to be a singles champion and carry this thing for a while. And just like that, was it 3 weeks? He loses the championship. I mean, good for Bron, but I think there's a lot of people that thought Jey Uso won't be involved in the bloodline. He'll do his own thing. And now he's going to be roped right back into that story because he doesn't have a championship anymore.
Yeah, and even the way they told this story where you sort of had the 1 week face turn of Bron and then him going back to being a heel, you're like, wait, what are we doing here? They had the moment. It was special with Jey winning, but yeah, now it feels like Jey is completely removed from that title picture because he's going to be all bloodline for the next few months. So that sucks from a Jey Uso standpoint. You thought maybe he was starting to win some matches. And as bad as that story is in terms of Bron and Jey, it's still better than Chris Jericho holding a title once again. We've talked about it a lot. We as wrestling fans need a Chris Jericho break. Like, he's the king of reinvention. He's done an amazing job, but these last 6 months to a year, no one gets better being around Chris Jericho. And I think it's going to be much the same here. Mark Briscoe is not in a better spot because of Jericho. Big Bill, Brian Keith, is going to be much the same there also. I just don't get it right now with him.
Let me miss you.
Yes.
And trust me, if you go away for 6 months, I think people are going to miss you. There's going to be a reaction when you return. And yeah, I didn't mind, I guess, the Bron Breakker, because I didn't look at it as a true face turn, right? Like, it was just him trying to lull Jey into a full sense of security. And look, realistically, at this point, there's more money to be made with Jey being a part of the bloodline,
sure, and
Bron Breakker being the Intercontinental Champion. That's where the money is. Jey returning to the bloodline, reuniting with his brother, reuniting with Roman. Like, that's where the money is. So I don't have a problem with any of that, any of the way that it ended up playing out. And I even found it fascinating the way that they initially, like, because in the match, Solo pushed him out of the way to eat the spear. Right. And you're going, oh, maybe they're actually going to help him. Maybe he'll align with this side of the bloodline. Then of course, then they cost him in the end. But, you know, at least it gave you like, oh, there was at least some intrigue of, oh, maybe they actually are here to help with the way that they did it during the match.
Yeah, and even the little parts with Jimmy and with Roman, like the Roman saying he's proud of him on Friday. Like, I've enjoyed those little parts of the story right now.
That's the breadcrumb to say that Jay's going to be aligning with Jimmy and with Roman for Survivor Series or moving forward through WrestleMania season. And you know, I don't know how Jey Uso feels about it, but I mean, I think that it was a success. I know, Brian, that you've been down on it, but here's the success. It's not necessarily about work rate, as the three of us know. It's about merchandise and if the fans like you or if they dislike you. And you could just tell, like, of all the people in WWE, there's a number of people that really get a reaction. You hear that first chord of the Cody Rhodes music. You get the first chord of Randy Orton. And when Jey Uso comes out there, everybody's eating. Everybody's into it because it's a crowd activity. And it's not, when you see him in the ring, you know, the bell rings, it's kind of like, well, that's irrelevant versus him just being able to get the crowd going and him being IC champion. We didn't even see him with like meaningful title matches to make it seem like if he could be a viable single. So he's kind of gone right back to where he was before. And hopefully, again, he'll be champion as a singles at some point down the line.
You know, you mentioned, you know, the crowd having a reaction the first second you hear the chord or the first note. That's what Jericho used to be. You used to hear that little opening guitar riff from Judas and people got excited. And now you hear, I'm a learning tree. And everyone's like, all right, well, all right, time to go get a beer. All right. You know, like that's like what it is now. It's not a good reaction for Jericho. And unless they're actually unless they're doing what they did at the beginning 5 years ago with this company and putting it on, you know, putting a championship on Jericho because they've got a big TV deal coming up, which I don't think is happening for ROH, by the way. Like, I don't understand the purpose of him being the ROH world champion. I mean, get it.
It's his own game plan he needs to follow. He used to be special in WWE because he would take those times off and do Fozzy tours, and then he would come back. It's like, oh, it's Jericho, and you would get excited. And when he showed up in New Japan, you hadn't seen him in a while, so it was exciting. Now he's out there every single week on a company that we talk all the time about. There's plenty of people, they're wasting time right now. They're not booking. They're not putting on TV. But Jericho's there every week.
Yeah, there's no metrics that could show me that Chris Jericho is one of the high spots of every Dynamite or Collision. That's just right. It's just not the case. It can't be true. I'll look at it from Tony Khan's standpoint just for a second. So why is Jericho out there every week? Chris Jericho's out there every week because he's never been seriously injured. I'm talking about in his career. He's one of the strange unicorns in the business that hasn't been out with a shoulder, out with a knee. He's always been healthy enough to wrestle. And I guess from Tony Khan's standpoint, he's like, you know what? This guy shows up every week. We're going to reward him with quote-unquote TV time or this ancillary nonsense ROH championship. You know why? Because Paul White can't wrestle, and I'm paying him six figures. You know why? Because Kenny Omega can't wrestle. Because of a number of people that's on in this company, Powerhouse Hobbs will be coming back soon. A number of people that they relied on is not available. And they say, oh, here's Jericho. You could pay him six figures to just be a color commentator, but you got 18 of those in the company, so you don't need that. You know, I mean, he could write, he could be a writer, but do you want him to really come up with ideas? I mean, for everybody else, I don't know if that's his future. So I guess from that standpoint, Tony says, at least this guy keeps showing up for work. Who's one of these veterans that's just not taking my money and sitting at home.
But you have a second brand, which could be an opportunity to develop people. Like Tony talked about when they first got Ring of Honor, like, hey, this could be my NXT. It's a chance to develop people. And Mark Briscoe winning the title with a special moment in Philadelphia. He was emotional about it. But then you put it on someone like Jericho, like, what are we doing? How does this help anyone?
It does not.
Meanwhile, when's the last time we saw their women's world champion, who people actually like? And is really damn good. I don't understand how nobody knows how to book her.
Athena was in the top 10 of PWI, and rightfully so. She's only in the top 10 because I'm the only one watching her. I know she's doing the best work of her career, but she can't get on Dynamite or Collision.
Hey, I'll take your word for it. I have to take your word for it. I assume it's really good. I mean,
I see her every few months at their pay-per-views, and she's great. I'm not watching it weekly.
No, she's doing great work as a heel. It's the best work of her career, better than the WWE. She to the point where she's become an ROH lady. You know, we talk about who's a TNA guy and who, like Kurt Angle, WWE guy, TNA guy, Dean Ambrose, WWE guy, or Jon Moxley is an AEW guy. I mean, she's become like this ROH person that shines above most of the talent in that company, if not all of it, in ROH, but behind a paywall. So
weird.
Yep.
If they gave her Jericho's TV time, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
Good with it over here.
Yeah, she could beat Mercedes Monet's Heavy. Boy, she's not great. That was not a work of art on Dynamite. You saw this, right?
Yeah.
That was not for someone who's supposed to be like the Kevin Nash in this whole situation, right?
Well, then that sort of checks out.
Oh, don't do that now. Don't you do that to Kevin Nash. Don't you do that. He was better than what.
No, that's on you, Hoodie. You had, I mean, at this point, you need to know better. Of course he was going to do that to Kevin Nash.
It's still, but it still needs to be called out. I'm going to call it out. I'm not going to just sit there and just let him do that on this podcast. That's not right. I'm going to call it out.
5-star classic guy.
You know what? He didn't get into business for that. You listen, right? You listen to that podcast. He didn't give a damn. He was just everywhere he was. He just collected checks and just putting a big boot out there. That's what Kevin him for. Yeah.
What do we got at number 3 this week?
All right, we are a little over a week away from WWE Crown Jewel, or we'll crown the Crown Jewel champion. Cody Rhodes takes on Gunther. Nia Jax takes on Liv Morgan. Which Crown Jewel match are you more into?
I'm more into Cody versus Gunther, just because I don't know who's losing. I don't know who's coming in to interfere, because I know. Neither one of them is getting pinned 1, 2, 3 clean in the middle of the ring in Saudi. Right? I know that for a fact. Like, either in the women's match, like, you could talk me into either one of them taking the fall and have it being more of a clean match, because I don't know if you can do a schmozzy finish in both. But in the men's one, as much as they have built up Gunther, as much as they have clearly built up Cody, it ain't going to be clean. And I am very intrigued as to who's actually walking away with that Crown Jewel championship. Any
other matches on the card that you got for us, Ryan? Anything else?
I think the only thing right now that is officially a part of that, there's only 3 matches booked. The only other one is the one that they booked on Monday with Big Bronson and Seth Rollins.
Oh. Yeah, they teased Orton and Owens, but I feel like Owens doesn't go over there, so.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I would say that Cody and Gunther is a match that we didn't ask for and we're going to get. But, of course, it's Crown Jewel, so whatever happens, we're supposed to forget. Hit the button and just move on. Whatever happens in Saudi Arabia, just pretend like it didn't happen, because it will not have any connective tissue to what happens later on in WWE, like maybe the next Raw or the next SmackDown. Like it will happen. There's a championship, but there's no real story to connect all of it. It's just matches.
Well, that's the frustrating part, because I feel like Cody and Gunther should be special. Like, we talk all the time about some of those matchups we've never seen. That's something that you could have built up to. And now whenever we get this down the line, you'll have that story aspect of like, oh, I beat you in Saudi. But let it be special. Let it be the first time. So you have that. The Nia and Liv stuff I've sort of been into. Like, I enjoyed Tiffy being involved Monday and teaming with Rhea, and I involved some of that story. The Cody stuff, even with the promo Friday, it's not hooking me. Like, he did a good job with that promo and mentioning, old names to get the cheap pops about, oh, we never would have known what would have happened there. But I don't know, like, because we're going to schmozzy finish, I'm just not that into it.
Because, so the concept is kind of old and tired. It's what they did for the better part of a decade for Survivor Series, and there's a reason why they went away from it and decided to introduce War Games. Now, I'm guessing that I'm already kind of getting sick of War Games. Like, I look at War Games the same way I look at, like, Hell in a Cell. Like, it shouldn't be its own pay-per-view. Like, it's a tool in the toolbox that you can use to blow off a feud, much like we saw with with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, right? Like that wasn't a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but you used it in that situation. So like having it there and having it this year actually kind of makes sense with the way that you're building it up. But like having to almost force something, especially doing like some sort of team match in Survivor Series, it's that. So maybe they continue to do this, but it kind of became an old tired gimmick with the previous Survivor Series. And I don't know if they're just kind of out of ideas and they're like, oh, we got to put something on for the $50 million we're getting. So,
but even that, like, I was a little more into that because at least you're keeping score. Like, oh, like Raw's got 4 wins, SmackDown has 3, and like trying to balance that out is a little more intriguing than just some random ass title that, like you said, Hood, are we going to see it on that Monday? Like, are they going to have to schlep this title around? Like, how is that going to work moving around?
I look at it the same way I look at the Owen Hart Classic. They'll wear the belt they'll wear the belt maybe the next week, but after that, it's never to be seen again.
Yeah,
just
someone
holds the Andre Trophy.
Yes, and by the way, that should have been a rib on the boys. They should take that around in the airport. I think that should have been the case. Bronson Reed.
Uh-huh.
I think Jey Uso won once. Didn't he? One of the Usos won.
I think it was Jey. You're right.
Jey. I think they should have been able to take that around with luggage on the plane. I think that would have been nice. That would have been a great rib. But you know, I think that it is true. I think that whoever wins the Crown Royal Heavyweight title or Crown Jewel Heavyweight title, whatever it's called, we see it on the SmackDown or the Raw, and then we won't see it again until they go back to Saudi. But just remember, all this that's going to happen, guys, we're not supposed to remember. Like, it's going to happen, and then it's as if, you know, Shawn Michaels and Triple H against the Brothers of Destruction. That never happened.
No.
You didn't see Kane lose his mask. You didn't see Shawn Michaels bald.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, just never happened.
Well, unless they pull the rabbit out of the hat and Dwayne shows up, then we have to remember it.
He ain't going.
Yeah. You think Roman's going there?
He ain't going. CM Punk ain't going. Like, a lot of these guys, they're just Drew. Just like, nah, we're good. And, you know, it's going to be whatever the best 3 or 4 matches Triple H wants to put together. Boy, that plane. I could be on that plane, by the way. That must be a really, like, empty plane. You got a few wrestlers?
The one that was basically hijacked?
Right. That one?
Yeah, well, that one had a lot of wrestlers in the Vince regime. I'm talking about this plane now. You know, you got like 4 matches. Got empty seats in the back. I'll take one. I'll take a seat in the back with a WWE superstar. Absolutely.
Yeah, but they still, like, who do we talk? Didn't Gargano? Yeah, Gargano flew over to France and did a dark match.
Did he really?
They had a smaller card, but they're still bringing people over to do dark matches.
That's great, man. Probably get 4 or 5 matches, and then they go home. That's it. Small cards, man. We're going back to the 1950s. Small cards.
Well, but do you? And I think Triple H is going to stay true to that. But do you have to put down a bigger card for this, for the price tag that's associated with it?
Whatever the Crown Prince wants.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if the Crown Prince wants 8 matches, like Hunter's got to put together 8 matches.
This is why Wyatt's first Final Testaments you get. There you go.
Sure. And Ellering Dunn, by the way, from Philadelphia, looks like that he's like retired after he had the mandible claw put on him. Like, I think he's done. I think the Miz is the new manager of AOP. I think that's where they're going.
I did not see that coming. Ellering taking a bump in 2024.
No Wall Street Journal either.
That would have protected him. He would have defended himself.
You're gonna hit him with that Wall Street Journal that he had from '84. Where's the Wall Street Journal? I like that, though. In Philadelphia, big city, like he goes out that way. I think he was stretchered. It was not shown on TV. He was stretchered. And so that's it. Ellering, done. Wow.
Of course.
Mandible claw. That's all it took. Who knew?
Yeah.
What do we got in news and notes this week, Brian?
All right. We'll head down to NXT. A big date coming up. Wednesday, November 6th. NXT on the CW will go head-to-head with AEW Dynamite. And it was announced this week that show will take place at the 2300 Arena, better known as the ECW Arena.
Moving it off of election night, Gabe. Yeah. That's smart.
That's just smart. I realized the other day that the NFL trade deadline is also on election day. I'm like, it's like the one thing that actually overblows that can actually like overcome NFL trade deadline is election night.
I think also the first college football playoff rankings will come out that night.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, see. Sports bandwidth. We can't watch everything, man. We can't watch everything.
Are people wait? So are people legitimately upset? I thought I saw some backlash. Like some people are legitimately upset that they're running a show in the ECW arena.
Who's mad at that?
I don't know. Wrestling fans. I don't know. Weird.
See, F off.
How has Tony not done that yet?
You would think.
That's a better question. Yeah.
He's an ECW guy. Now, they're going to be in Philly, but it's going to be at the Liacouras Center. It's soon. Like they're going to be in Philly, but not the ECW arena. It's kind of weird. He's never run that before. And it's smart from ECW NXT standpoint. It's good for NXT standpoint because it's like, hey, here's an attraction. We're going to be in Philly. WWE has never been in there before, but they're going to bring NXT. It'll be fine. And it's smart that they're going to be a Wednesday. And by the way, head-to-head now doesn't mean like it used to, because if you believe in these fake ratings, NXT is doing well against AEW.
And they're going to roll out some sort of ECW legend, right? Like just for the moment.
Yeah. I'm thinking like, I don't know, like RVD. Something like that. Sabu.
Enter Sandman.
Sabu. like something like that. Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
So we have that. Well, speaking of NXT, this weekend, Sunday, Hershey, Pennsylvania, NXT Halloween Havoc. So prepare your life accordingly. A couple big matches there. The NXT title on the line. Trick Williams versus Ethan Page in a Devil's Playground match. You also have Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade taking on Julia and Stephanie Vacour. And Saturday night, TNA Bound for Glory in Detroit. Nick Nemeth defends the title against Joe Hendry. Mike Bailey takes on Vikingo in an X Division match there. The highest grossing show of the year for TNA, topping their last pay-per-view.
Yeah, TNA's been cooking. They have been cooking. They've had more than a few sellouts, Gabe. Like San Antonio, San Antonio, this one, Montreal. They've had a really good 2024.
They were shown, the Hardys and Joe Hendry were shown on the Bucks ESPN telecast last night. Bucks Sixers in Philadelphia. Apparently the Hardys and the Hendrys, showed up to watch Joel Embiid not play.
So Hendry goes over? I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, right?
I can't imagine, like, at this point, like, as big as Joe Hendry is starting to get, like, if you're not going to put him over now, he's never getting over, right? You're not going to put it on him ever.
I mean,
that's what it sounds like.
It's got to happen now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got music, and he's got two companies that really love him. Like NXT fans love him, TNA fans love him. Nothing against Nick Nemeth. I think he's had a nice reign, but I mean, this guy's popular. It's his time, I think.
Highest grossing live event in 2024, as well as their highest paid ticket total for the States this year. The previous record was last month's Victory Road.
Looks like they're doing just fine. Post Scott D'Amore. Looks like they're doing.
And also
fine.
Mike Bailey versus Vikingo. That alone, worth the price of admission there,
brother. I'll take care of that. I'll take a look at that.
I thought
also on that note, like Vikingo is making his return to TNA before AEW.
I thought he was a close personal friend to Tony Khan. What's going on there?
I thought he worked for AEW. No,
I don't think he was. I don't think he ever got the All Elite moniker. I think it was just kind of. Obviously not. I mean, obviously not. If he is working the TNA show and they don't really have a relationship with TNA anymore.
So weird.
Wrestling has strange bedfellows, as you well know in 2024, guys. Strange bedfellows.
Some changes to Monday Night Raw. Samantha Irvin announcing this week that she no longer will serve as ring announcer to pursue her music career. Lillian Garcia making her return to the Squared Circle this past Monday.
Always good to see Lillian. She fumbled over that first little line, little nerves there, being back full time. But I mean, look, good for Samantha. Like if that's what she wants to do, and I know Ricochet had shot down any sort of thought of her potentially going to AEW. Yeah, she wants to pursue something bigger. She's going to be missed. Like she was fantastic. She added a little extra layer. But I mean, if you're going back to Lillian Garcia, WWE is doing some good things.
I have some intel if you'd like about why Samantha Irvin is no longer in WWE. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
You have time? Got time? Okay. Samantha Irvin, she looked at this is from a source around the WWE. A source around WWE who says that she looked at the gig as her vehicle to become a singer. They were even going to do like an Elias thing around her where she's going to perform in Nashville, and they were going to have an album done, and it was going to be done by the WWE machine behind it, but she did want to share royalties, and she wanted to have 100% ownership of the Masters. She tried to quit twice in the past year. She wanted to have $400,000 a year with WWE, and they settled for apparently a certain number that they could deal with. Lastly, this is juicy. Scroll down. There's also rumor and innuendo that she wanted to have a camera set up on her for her reactions because she asked for that FaceTime. That's not a WWE idea. There's a lot more, but that's after we click off on the podcast. But that just gives you a little bit of, you want a little something. There's a little something there. Look, she was not a wrestling fan. I think ultimately she looked at it as an opportunity. It's like, oh, it's a level of entertainment. Maybe I could be a singer from this. Kind of like Lillian Garcia, by the way.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Left because she was a singer. Didn't work out so well. It's good that she's available to come back. But as far as her going to AEW, if the music career does not work initially, I could see TK helping her. And so that way she could be aligned with her hubby.
She did the anthem, I want to say at the Raiders game a couple weeks ago at Allegiant when they were promoting stuff there. But like her on-screen stuff these past 6 months to a year, like she's added a lot to the product.
She has, but good things come to an end, especially when money's involved.
Oh, yes, I completely get that. But like the Cody moment, things like that, like that's all on her. So
that's from a source, rumor and innuendo regarding Samantha Irvin. Great while it lasted, but I mean, did Howard Finkel ever make $400,000 a year?
I'm guessing the answer is no, but I don't know that for sure.
How about no?
Okay.
How about no? And how about he never got royalties on and new?
Yeah, that's fair.
Everyone's in death. They call it. They say, "Oh, the cool thing is to say and new." Like World Heavyweight Champ. Yeah, he never got royalties on the trademark of and new. But go ahead.
Finally, in news and notes, Kevin Nash revealed on his Click This podcast that said if Vince had not walked away after coming back to WWE, that Triple H would have ended up walking away from the company.
Totally believable. And I know that he said he hadn't talked to Hunter about it, but knowing Hunter, that's what he thinks. And that, I mean, I guess I never really sat down to think about it, but it makes a ton of sense. Like Triple H was already, I mean, he had the health scare and HBK had taken over NXT. It's not like Triple H was sliding back into NXT after he got healthy. Like it was pretty obvious that he was not necessarily in favor because, you know, things didn't go well in the head-to-heads against AEW initially. So that's not shocking to me that Hunter would have walked away had his wife did walk away after her dad came back. So again, not very shocking. Although when you think about it, you go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Was that on Click This? Was that on his podcast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kevin said that? Okay, so he said that on his podcast. That Triple H would have gone if Vince didn't leave. So what would Triple H would he have done? Would he be out the business or start a promotion with Shane? That doesn't seem likely based on watching Mr. McMahon. Looks like there might be still a little heat there.
Yeah.
Between the two. I don't know.
I don't either. Like I'm curious, like Triple H in an office setting that isn't wrestling seems odd.
I don't know. That's interesting. I don't think AEW would not be it. I'm not sure what a Triple H would do without WWE.
You can buy the NWA.
Somebody should.
That's not a bad idea.
We should buy the NWA. Craig should buy the NWA.
There we go.
I think Craig Harmazon should buy the NWA. I think that would be great.
What did you boys have for your matches of the week?
So we bought NWA, and so that'd be great.
Would Brian be the head writer right away, or would Craig make you earn it?
No, would it be Brian? I'm too busy. Brian, you and I are too busy for that. We would be like announcers, but we'd be too busy for the rest of it. Brian,
I can make time for it.
Yeah. Gabe and I are too busy. We have play-by-play and everything else that we're doing. A million talk shows, 17,000 podcasts. So we would not have time. We would just helicopter in to whatever
you need me for, Brian. But yeah.
And I will turn the lights on for those announcers, for you guys.
That's
not
the second.
NWA
By the way, the second you make Luchasaurus, or excuse me, Brody, the second you bring back Brody and make him champ, then I'm out.
You can hit the road.
Okay. Matches. Speaking of things that are good, matches of the week.
Shout out to MLP from Windsor, Ontario. We mentioned Scott D'Amore earlier. We saw on Triller TV, MLP. I thought that Takeshita had the weekend of his life. Takes on Mike Bailey in night one. Takes on Josh Alexander. Hey, listen, Gabe, you may not like this. This might make you sleepy, but let me tell you, it was a great match. Takeshita against Mike Bailey in night one, and then Takeshita taking on Josh Alexander. I thought it was two great matches.
I think that's good. I got a couple random ones. I enjoyed LWO versus American Made on Monday. The Creeds, like the push and then the going away, and now like the laughing one feels like a Vince angle, but the match actually delivered on Monday. And then going to Saturday, AR Fox is back, baby. Him and Ricochet. Great job on Collision.
Oh, God. I could have showed you that match in 2015 if you just need to see
I'm pretty sure
match.
I've seen it at a Pancakes and Pile Driver show, maybe in New York or Orlando or something. Great pancakes. Great match. Ricochet and AR Fox.
Now, these are just tribute matches because, in the back, it's like AR Fox and Ricochet's, hey, what's up, man? What's up, man? Let's do Panama City 2016. All right, see you out there.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm in.
Just pull the file. That's what
they
we're
got
doing.
me.
It's unbelievable.
I enjoyed the Street Profits versus DIY versus Pretty Deadly from SmackDown. I thought it was also a pretty creative finish with the dual cover. DIY being the actual winners because they covered the right guy at the right time. So I thought that was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, Shelton Benjamin continues to deliver, man. Like, this guy has been doing real well with MVP since he showed up on Dynamite. Him and Sammy was pretty good. It's
also still odd that on WWE television tomorrow, we're getting Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY.
Give me that for 60 minutes.
Yeah, like that's just even a weird graphic to see. It's like, that's happening.
Oh man. Please don't cut that short. I want to see that. I don't even want to see it on TV. I want to pay a ticket to see that. Because if it's on the road, it's like 40 minutes.
Right.
That's why I want to see like a house show with those four. Oh my God.
Good job by them on commentary, like explaining the Motor City Machine Guns, hyping them up. The crowd didn't seem to know who they were, but like Corey Graves dropping they're your favorite tag team's favorite tag team. Like, I enjoyed stuff like that.
Yes. I was shitting on Columbia, South Carolina on Sirius XM. I'm like, what's up with the crowd? Maybe it wasn't mic'd well, but I said I thought that the crowd could have been louder. And people say, hey, we were loud. We were into it. What are you talking about? I'm like, I didn't get that on my TV. Right. You guys act like you didn't know who. You act like you guys didn't know who Motor City Machine Guns were, let alone Roman.
Right.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You had the tribal chief showing up, and he was pretty quiet. But I would say, and I don't know if it was a mic'd up issue yesterday at Dynamite too, because the crowd for the reaction when Adam Cole came out seemed pretty muted.
Yeah,
because usually when he does his whole, the boom, the Adam Cole baby, like that's a pretty big pop, and it seemed pretty muted last night.
Why don't they just have a parabolic mic like when we call football? Just get the crowd.
Can't trust wrestling fans? I don't know.
Yes, you can. It's just, I don't understand why these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies can't find good mics just to get the surround sound, the ambiance of the crowd.
Just take 5% of the money you're making from the Saudis this weekend,
right,
and put it in towards microphones.
That's all. Just feel like that you're there. You want to feel like you're there. That's all.
Yeah, because it also like it's a bad visual product when they're coming. The Motor City Machine Guns are coming out. They're pumped up, and it's like crickets. It's like, don't be excited. Like, we want to hear this.
Well, the fans were mad at me on Twitter. There's like, we were loud. We were into him. Like, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
I agree.
I thought that Garcia and the Private Party against the Elite.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see what they're doing, guys. You see what they're doing. Like, so in 6 months, all these guys that's been underneath or just kind of bubbling to the surface are going to be guys that's going to be in front of your TV, and they're going to be champions, and they're going to be in main events. Now the question is, are they big enough stars to be able to carry the torch? Like when Moxley's done with the championship, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't everybody a heel?
Every champion's a heel right now in AEW, yeah.
They're all heels. Okay, so when these baby faces become champions, are you sure that they're going to be there for Darby? Sure they're going to be there for Private Party, who I still don't believe in? Sure they're going to be there for Garcia, who I'm not sure. Like, well, that's the whole thing with this.
You play that out and look at the champs. It would be what? Darby as world champ, Orange as international, beating Okada, Garcia as TNT, beating Perry, Private Party as the tag champs.
I mean, honestly, I'm not just saying this because he was on the show today, but the position they're putting him in, it seems like Orange would be the one to take it off of Mox.
And not Darby?
And not Darby.
Listen, we're glad he was on the show. You want him as world heavyweight champion?
No, I'm
right.
The way that have you ever heard? I mean, he's being the one who's built as Mr. AEW. He's the one who's like, oh, this guy's been here. Like I've heard Shivani say that a couple different times. He is at front and center of the babyface side of this thing. Like there's no other bigger guy because they're going, hey, you've beaten these people before.
Also the reluctant. He's Sting right now.
Yeah.
Which Sting?
Yes, exactly. He is.
Which Sting?
He's Sting. He's Sting
Sting
going up against the NWO.
Yeah.
Oh, Crow Sting.
Yeah.
Okay, not TNA Joker Sting.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Not bad WWE Sting. No. Not Surfer Sting.
He is Crow Sting trying to be pursued.
Oh, the Monday Night Wars have broken out at WrestleMania. Yeah. God, I will never forget all those old farts just hobbling down to the ring during that Sting Triple H match.
Nash.
Well,
just ask it. All I know is that he was great with us. He was great, not great. He was affable with us, Orange Cassidy. All I'm saying is that a guy that just wants to go home and puts his title as a knapsack, is that the face of the company? That guy's going to do all the media.
Yeah.
I mean, he's who's told us today,
right?
Not really want to be the guy. Don't want to be that guy. And I don't know if that's him pulling our leg or if that's true, but he said in an open microphone, I don't really want to be the guy.
It'd be a moment, but I feel like it'd be that Darby also. Like either of those guys winning the title would be a moment in the moment. It's just then how they follow it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you check out all of our content if you happen to miss any of the show earlier today, like the Orange Cassidy interview. It's available on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@GoodKarmaWrestling. Plenty of things to continue to get excited about as we ramp up towards Crown Jewel, towards Full Gear for AEW. We're going to talk about it all next week right here